Hello, everybody. This is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today, we're going to talk about some signs that your pastor/pastor priest give during the Mass that kind of show that perhaps he really values the holy sacrifice of the Mass, and conversely, signs that maybe the priest just wants to get through it pretty quickly. Now, before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri, Filio, et Spiritui Sancto, sic ut erat in principio, et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. We do have some episodes here, and I'll try to remember to put the banner up here, of similar episodes. Like there's one, 11 signs that your pastor might be a modernist. I think there's another one, 10 signs when you're entering a modernist church. And we have quite a lot of videos here in the 3 years that I've done this channel on just Catholic Mass, Catholic living and whatnot. And the genesis of this episode, you can still see we're in Christmas season as of recording this, even though this is coming out in late February, is I went to the January 1st Holy Day of Obligation here in Houston. I'm visiting my mother. And so I went to 7 a.m. Mass on January 1st for the solemnity of the Theotokos, Mary, Mother of God. And let me tell you, the people who show up at 7 a.m. the day after the day that we're supposed to get drunk, you know these are pretty diehard people, because A, they're going to a non-Sunday Holy Day of Obligation, and they're going at 7 a.m. Either way, there's probably about 50, 60 people. This is in the Galleria area of Houston, if you're familiar with this area. And so the priest, I was listening to him and I was like, I like this priest. I didn't know this priest, but I like this priest. And one of the reasons is because I've been now it's been 51 years, because my birthday would have elapsed by the time this video is released. So I've been to a lot of Masses in my lifetime, and I've seen a lot of different priests. I've talked about the Master of Ceremony priest, the one that does a joke right before the offertory. He does the anniversaries, birthdays, and the joke of the day. I kid you not. I've seen those priests. I've seen just priests of all ilks. And I think there's a lot of little signs that the priest does as the presider over the Mass that show that he really values the Mass. And I think by looking at these, you can also look at the opposite of what these priests do and kind of see that the other priests who maybe aren't so focused on it. And look, I get it. Priests are human. Many of them have a crisis of faith. Many of them are burnt out. Many of them, perhaps deep in their heart, don't even believe in transubstantiation. I'm not saying the majority of them don't, but I'm saying these are human beings, and it's a difficult job to be a pastor. And we have an episode on that as well. Have some sympathy for your pastor, because these people are just inundated mostly with complaints and not a lot of compliments, and it's a difficult job. You don't necessarily have of course, you don't have a nuclear family unless you're in an Eastern Rite or in the Ordinariate, and it can be a lonely job, and so they deal with a lot of things. But the main thing I say about the Mass is deliberation. What do I mean by deliberate? When they're doing the collect, they take their time. When they're doing the Eucharistic prayer, preferably not number 2, Eucharistic prayer number 2, they take their time. During the songs, they take their time. And maybe during the procession to leave, they're not leaving immediately. They take their time, especially if it's a good song. They'll take their time and maybe not leave to the 4th verse. The other one is right before the final blessing, when we sit down after we're all kneeling until everything is put away and cleaned up, for lack of a better word, and he sits down. He sits for like 2 minutes. And there's silence. It's like one of the few times that Mass is silent, because in the typical Our Lady of Suburbia parish, just this constant music, but there's never music during that time. And so we're just sitting, and a lot of the impatient people, or the people that just see Mass as health insurance and the Eucharist as a participation token, they're like, come on, let's go. But most of the time, these people have already left. But some people are like, let's go. Why are we waiting so long? So I mentioned that I used to go to the Mission of Divine Mercy over in Comal County in Texas, and this church, even though they don't say they're sedevacanists, they're receiving visions, or one of the sisters is that Francis is an usurper. So they're essentially sedevacanists, even though they don't call themselves that. And I missed that Mass. And one of the things that the priest there did was, when we were sitting down at the very end before the final blessing, I kid you not, I mean, it was 3 to 4 minutes of just silence. And I liked that. Because if you look at the converse, how many of you guys have been to Masses where the priest is just on autopilot? Just just everything's really fast. As soon as somebody sits down, he stands up. The Eucharistic prayers are very quick. Just everything is fast. And I understand on some level as humans why we would like a fast Mass, because let's just get in and get out. But I think when you look at priests who really are paying attention to the words that they're saying during the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass, who are really focused on what they're saying and take their time, but at the same time are not narcissistic and it's me, masters of ceremony priests, let's make it about me. I like those Masses. And I think on some level, everything that is ad populum toward the people instead of ad orientem, on some level makes every priest, even if they're not this way, kind of narcissistic. Because when we have it ad orientem, and we have an episode here why all Masses, I believe, should be ad orientem, it's not about the priest, right? We're all looking at the tabernacle. The priest has no personality, and really that's the way it should be. But when we flip them and we flip the altar and make it ad populum, the priest, I think on some level, feels more pressure to, for lack of a better word, perform, because he's facing that way. But I just like priests who, I don't know their personality when they're doing the Mass. Those are the best. And I really like priests who just are very deliberate, and you can tell they're focused on the words and they're taking their time. They take their time with everything. The procession, the recession, everything. Guys, post in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. Have you seen priests who do Masses really fast and are pretty much checked down? They're just going through the motions. And conversely, have you seen priests like the ones I'm talking about today? Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.